It's nerve-wracking, but it's a blessing in a good way, being able to have this process. A lot of guys end their college career, that's it. So being able to have this opportunity is a blessing in disguise. I attacked it from, the start of January all the way to here. I'm pretty proud of what I put out today. I thought I did great. I flew through the D-line drills. I improved my 40, which is my overall goal. When you leave everything else you have on the field, there's no more regrets when you walk away. So. The biggest thing that I can say, when people ask me that, is this polished refinement. Being able to refine my game. I've been who I am, but being able to come somewhere that's uncomfortable. Being able to be pushed farther than where you thought you could go. Being able to learn from a guy like Warren Sapp. Being able to learn those little things about how to conduct yourself in this process. How to conduct yourself as a rookie. How to answer questions when people ask you stuff like this. Being able to come to a place like this that prepares you to go to the next level because that's what they want to see and that's what they've done. Being able to walk in the path of people that have walked before you. Those are the big things, and that's what I can say about those things. That's like the biggest thing. Being an underrated guy, having that people thinking that they've overlooked me, don't even know who I. Some people don't even know who I am. It's a familiar burn and it feels good. Being able to have that burn under you again, it makes you feel alive. You feel like shows you that despite doing good this year, it's nowhere near where I'm gonna be. And I can only improve as I've improved in college throughout every single year that I've been in college. And I'm excited to attack this as well.
The decision to come here, what would you say was your main impetus behind it? What was the main reasoning?
Being able to be polished, being able to polish up my game and learn from a guy like Warren Sapp, and Damian Lewis when he was here, learning from those guys, learning how to conduct myself, learning how to approach pass rush, learning how to break down film, learning from guys like, Robert Livingston, a very cerebral person, he's a mad scientist when it comes to defense. Being able to learn those certain things, what my responsibilities are, how to conduct myself, being able to push myself further than where I thought I could go, like I said before. Those are the things that really showed me this may not be comfortable and it's not going to be an easy year, but it's going to be what I need to make this jump.
Coach always talks about NFL, not NIL. So now that was your impetus in coming here, how do you feel it all went? And do you feel like you're better prepared to enter that world based upon having been here?
Money management is always something that he emphasizes. Financial literacy is a big thing for Coach Prime. It's a blessing to learn those things. Learn about taxes. Learning how to invest. Learning how to save money. Some guys on the team have fathers. Learning how to put away, money for your children. Those are the things that are blessings. That he's taught us. Not only to be great football players, but great fathers. Great husbands. Just great people in general. He doesn't just coach. He doesn't coach players. He coaches people.
Last question for BJ.
Where do you plan to be during the watching family party?
I'm gonna be around loved ones, just taking it all in. This is 4 years of work that all culminated up to this point. You got to enjoy this process. It's only the beginning of the process. Some people it's the end all be all, but to be blessed to be at this point where people have interest in you, people are talking to you. It shows that you actually do have a future in this. You put the work in. And I'm glad to see that to come back here and wear the black and gold one last time. So now that I've done that, it's just all about letting the cards fall where they fall.